Today, we're going to be ranking every UFC division from S tier all the way down to F tier based on how good it is in the current era, 2024. We got all the current champs on screen to represent their divisions. Let's get right into it.
All right, starting it off, Flyweight division. Lucas, how are you initially feeling?
Flyweight, obviously, it can't be the most exciting. So right off the bat, it's not S tier. It's probably not even A tier, B tier. I'm thinking more in the range of C tier.
I was thinking C to D. I think maybe it's C if Tatsuro Taira would have won.
Oh, man.
Oh, I was so high on him. That one hurt me.
He's still a great fighter, though. He's only 24.
Dude, future champion potential for sure. Just hurts that he couldn't get that one done. I would probably lean D, just because I feel like it's a little bit messy right now, the way that they have Pantoja not fighting one of the top guys in Flyweight.
I was going to ask you, actually, how do you feel about Kaya Sakura getting that title shot without having any wins in the UFC?
I think in terms of business for the UFC,
It's smart.
it's smart. Fans probably don't love it as much, but I mean, if he can put up a competitive fight against Pantoja, that's all I can ask for, really.
And Kaya Sakura has a YouTube channel that has over 1 million subs, and he's going to bring in a massive Japanese audience.
Exactly. So I think that there is a lot of good merit to this fight. It's really interesting, though, because we have the Flyweight with the most knockouts of all time, and he has 14 first-round finishes in Kai Kara France. But he's not getting that title shot, and he fought at 305, 310. Maybe he needs a bigger layoff. Is Kai Kara-France just gonna wait until that title shot, or is he gonna go and fight Brandon Royval? Like, all of these guys feel like they should have a title shot lined up, but then they got to fight one more guy.
The reason why Flyweight is not in a great place right now is because, number one, their champion isn't someone who gets a lot of finishes. He's more of someone who goes to decision and wins, which again, in Flyweight isn't uncommon. So I can't really diss him too much for that. But another reason is that he's already beaten everyone. So there's no exciting storylines. If Tatsuro Taira would have won, that would have been an exciting storyline. Kaya Sakura, that's an exciting storyline. But overall, it's still not good enough to have it be in that B or C tier. So let's go probably D for this one.
Yeah, Flyweight can go into D for now.
All right.
Moving on to our Bantamweight division. This one is so weird, especially right now with the news of Umar Nurmagomedov facing Song Yadong at UFC Tampa.
Your boy, Song Yadong.
I'm really high on Song Yadong, but this matchup makes no sense because we saw Umar come out and destroy an elite level striker in Corey Sandhagen. Corey Sandhagen has better striking than Song Yadong. Song Yadong might have better boxing than Sandhagen, but it's a very interesting thing from the UFC to go and put Umar against a lower level striker.
It does seem like a backward step, but I'm not mad at it. These Dagestani guys, they're used to fighting once a year. So I'm happy that Umar is kind of sticking to his word and being like, hey, I want to be active. I want to get fights. And if Merab isn't going to fight me, I'll fight anyone.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what it seems like he's willing to do.
It kind of seems like Umar is coming out here to get in one more fight pre-Ramadan. Like maybe the timeline with Merab didn't really line up. And maybe the UFC is actually just going to pull the trigger and go Merab Sean 2 eventually.
You never know.
I think that has a good chance of happening because I think there's a lot more money in Merab Sean 2, really just praying that Sean can get this Bantamweight championship back. And I think if he loses to Merab a second time, Sean goes up to Featherweight.
Yeah, who knows? Because Featherweight isn't any easy division. Aljo's had some success, but he's a completely different style from Sean.
Exactly. But I do think with Sean being 5'11", he has the height for Featherweight.
Yeah.
So I don't think that it's a huge deal if he jumps up in weight.
Yeah, I think this division automatically, it's better than Flyweight. There's a lot more storylines, especially with Umar being ranked so highly right now. There's Sean O'Malley, who's a massive star in his own right. The top of the division, the champion, Merab, I wouldn't say I'm a big fan. I get some people really love him, but I just personally don't love his style. So I would probably have to go, it's between C and B, but I'm thinking more towards C.
I would argue potentially B. We do have some great bantamweight prospects. I think it has a good future. And at the bottom, we do have a guy like Jose Aldo who's not even in the top 10. Outside of the rankings, we have exciting fighters like Garbrandt. There is excitement inside of this division, but it's just put back so much by Merab being the champion.
And there's Peyton Talbot and Raul Rosas Jr. So I guess the prospects are exciting. Those are two of the biggest prospects, and Chase Hooper. 3 massive prospects right there. All right, I'll go towards B.
We can always switch things up at the end, but for now, I think B is where bantamweight belongs. Moving on. Next up, we have Featherweight. our favorite division inside of the UFC. We tend to glaze this division every single video.
Dude, it's so good.
There's really no other place where this thing can go with very little explanation needed.
It's S tier for me.
Yeah, we have the biggest fight in the UFC, headlining 308 coming up. This is also a division with Volkanovski, who's looking to fight the winner at UFC 312. And then we have these older, exciting fighters like Yair Rodriguez, Josh Emmett, Arnold Allen, who are always out there to put on a show. And we have the up-and-comers of featherweight like Diego Lopez, Movsar Evloev. We have Lerone Murphy. We even have Aljo, who's really not that old and is a former champion ranked 9th in this division. We have Calvin Kattar, who has put on some exciting fights in his career, specifically against Max Holloway. This division is so good.
It's all about storylines. Not only is this division a perfect mix of skill, because it's still a light division, but it also has enough KO power. You have guys like Ilia Topuria and Josh Emmett who can put your lights out with one punch. And then you also have the skill level where you need to have good takedown defense and good grappling to an extent to become a champion or a top 5 fighter. Look at the top 5 right now. You have obviously champion Ilia Topuria, super well-rounded. You have Volkanovski, extremely well-rounded.
Former pound for pound number 1.
Yeah, one of the best fighters we've seen in the last 10 years. And then you have Max Holloway, who is arguably the best boxer in the UFC, a legend in the featherweight division, beat Jose Aldo twice. Then you have Diego Lopez, arguably the biggest star of 2024 up and coming.
Yeah, dude is so well-rounded. His jiu-jitsu mixed with his striking, it's like, what?
Yeah, and just his star power.
Yeah,
right?
He has that flair. He has that charisma.
He has everything you need to help the UFC push him to the top.
Exactly.
And he's what makes exciting storylines.
Yes. We also have Yair Rodriguez, who has not fought as frequently as he used to, but still puts on exciting fights against whoever he has to face.
And Brian Ortega, right? Even though he lost to Diego Lopez at UFC 303, he's still an extremely high-level fighter.
Exactly.
306.
Yeah, that jiu-jitsu is world-class still.
Yeah.
Moving on to the lightweight division, headlined by the pound-for-pound number 1, Islam Makhachev.
This division 2 years ago was getting glazed out of this world.
For good merit.
For good reason, but I don't think it's actually as good as featherweight right now.
I don't think so either. I think it is a step below, and I think that that's what happens in 2 years. You know, there's a big difference between 32 and 34 in the UFC. There's a big difference between 34 and 36 inside the UFC.
100%. And Oliveira just turned 35. You know, that's a dangerous age for those lightweight, featherweight fighters.
We have Gaethje, who's getting older. Poirier's getting older. Hooker's getting older. Chandler's getting older. Dariush's getting older.
Dariush has been old, brother.
Dariush is old, man.
Yeah,
Dude's
he is
gray.
gray. Yeah. But honestly, the champion of this division carries it pretty hard right now. Islam is such an exciting fighter, the most well-rounded fighter in the UFC right now, I would argue. And then you have Arman Tsarukyan, which is the most exciting storyline. But other than that, it's again one of those divisions that suffers from the champ beating all of the contenders right now.
Exactly. One thing I am worried about for the future of lightweight is the future itself. I don't know how much future this division actually has. Like, it's not like we have these guys in this 15 to 10 range who are really making their way up. You have a Paddy Pimblett who's on his way up. You have an Arman Tsarukyan who's on his way up. You have an Oralbai who's on his way up.
Wait, what do you mean Arman Tsarukyan? He's ranked number 1 contender.
I know, but he's younger. Like, he's part of the future. Like, who's made his way up.
Yeah,
you know, you have these guys who are the future of lightweight, but those are really only 3 guys you can name off the top of your head who are the future. This is a very old division.
Yeah, even someone like Moicano who's trying to make that run again. He's still an older fighter who's had a long career at featherweight. Now he's trying to make his run at lightweight. I do love that storyline, but let's be real, in 2 years, if he gets another loss, it's kind of over.
Exactly. Once you hit those early to mid 30s and you start losing, it's done. You're never going to get back to that top. And sure, there are a lot of exciting fights you can make, especially with the Hookers, the Poiriers, the Moicanos, the Gaethjes, but how many more fights do those guys really have left?
And we've seen most of them.
Exactly.
Like, we've seen Chandler Oliveira, now we're seeing it again. Am I excited? Obviously. But we've seen Oliveira versus Chandler. We've seen Oliveira versus Gaethje. We've seen Dustin Makhachev. We've seen Dustin Gaethje twice, maybe a third time. We've seen Hooker Poirier. We've seen everyone
We
fight.
have seen all of these fights. And just wait until, what if Max Holloway loses at featherweight and comes up to lightweight, because he is in the lightweight rankings. He's fought all these guys before in featherweight or at lightweight.
But I think there is some renewed sense of him being able to go up to lightweight.
I just think in lightweight there's a lot of nostalgia Russia, and that's why I'm really torn between A and B here, Lucas.
I'm going to go A.
We can go A for this division.
Because the star power in this division is absolutely
there.
stacked.
And so much lovability in these fighters. Moving on to a division that we have notoriously said is cooked and is like baking a cake, but you use salt instead of sugar.
Ooh.
We have welterweight. Has your opinion changed on this division?
It has slightly changed. I think we were hating on it a little bit too much in that video. Yeah, we said that it was an awful division. It's not awful. There's so many fun up-and-coming stars in that division. Let's look at the rankings. Champion, you have Belal Muhammad. Not the most exciting fighter. He is already 35 or 36.
Is he?
Yeah, he's old.
He does not seem old.
No, he doesn't, because he got on the TRT and just renewed his lifespan a little bit. And then you have Leon Edwards, who just obviously lost. He isn't the most exciting fighter, neither is Belal. So that top of the division, it's not the best right now. But then you go down, you have former champ Kamaru Usman, still an absolute unit, an absolute powerhouse, well-rounded everywhere. You have Shavkat, the next title challenger, undefeated, 18-0, 18 finishes. Then you have JDM, which again, boxing, incredible, beat Gilbert Burns. He's one of those guys who could be the future of welterweight. And you have Sean Brady coming off a huge, dominant performance of Gilbert Burns. It's a stacked top 5.
And then I think you have to even look further with a guy like Ian Machado Gary, who's trying to make his way up undefeated. You have a guy like Michael Morales.
Michael Morales? You mean Miles Morales?
Just came to my... Okay, let's try that again. We even have to look further down in the top 5. We have Ian Machado Gary. Although he does some questionable stuff outside of the UFC and it's easy to clown on him, he is still a great fighter and is undefeated inside the UFC. We have our favorite fighter, Miles Morales, Spider-Verse. I just came to my senses. We even have a guy who's not ranked, like Carlos Prates, who's fighting Neil Magny at Apex 100 and is looking to crack the welterweight rankings.
I forgot about Prates. Dude is exciting.
He's electric. I don't think that our critique of the welterweight division is the guys inside of the welterweight division. I just think it's how they're booking this welterweight division. We have guys facing number 8 contenders at the time, Stephen Thompson, who's old as dirt and is getting a title shot from it. We are just refusing to matchmake these guys to the top of the division. I don't know why Dana's doing it. Maybe he's scared that these top prospects are going to lose to the guys at the top of welterweight, but they're inevitably going to lose if they're going to go and fight for the championship.
Yeah, Belal is super dominant right now. He looked strong.
Yeah, so we have this guy like Shavkat, who we all know is good, but we don't really know his ceiling because he's only fought a guy like Stephen Thompson.
All right, so we haven't even given this one a ranking yet. Looking at our previous rankings, we have Merab, Bantamweight at B tier. I think it's probably around there.
It's so tough. I would lean ahead of Merab in B tier.
Yeah, so let's put him above Merab.
Yeah, top of B tier.
All right, that's fair. Because it's not as good as lightweight in A tier.
No.
It could be.
100% if they match made it better.
In like a year, it could be A tier.
If we see a JDM versus an Usman and a Leon versus a Gary and Shavkat beat Belal,
then it's like S tier almost.
Exactly. It's like, oh man, like, and then we have like Prates and Morales making their way up in the division.
Yeah, and even Buckley.
Yeah.
Buckley's exciting.
Another guy I forgot about.
Yeah.
All right, moving on to middleweight. Headlined by my least favorite fighter in the UFC, Dricus du Plessis. Go kiss your coach, bro, when you're down in F tier.
No, not
That's
F tier.
hyperbole. I wouldn't put it in F tier. I do think that this is a division very similar to lightweight in terms of it's a little bit old.
And it has a lot of star power.
It has a lot of star power, but I don't think it's on the same caliber of lightweight.
So we have Dricus as a champion. He is an exciting champion. He gets lots of finishes. He does lots of press conference talking. So I would say that's a pretty good face of the division right now. Obviously, we don't love him the most. Like, he's not that guy who's doing flashy striking, but he gets the job done and he gets memes made out of him. So it is kind of fun.
Yeah, we have a guy like Dricus du Plessis where you either love or you hate him. And then you have another guy like Sean Strickland. You either love or you hate him. You have a guy named Israel Adesanya. You either love or you hate him. You have Robert Whitaker. You either love or you love him.
Yeah. I was waiting. I was like, what are you going to say about Rob?
He was like, this is going down right now.
Yeah, Rob, I mean, he's such a great fighter. I love him.
Yeah, but then you do have some guys who are trying to make their way up. You have an Imavov. You have a Barajo. You have a Roman Delice. You have a Brennan Allen. And then you still have those guys mixed in with like a Cannonier in the middle division. He's in a perfect spot. He's like, you can beat Cannonier like Barajo did. You go to the top of middleweight. You can't beat Cannonier. You're staying at the bottom half.
And there's some really exciting fighters. Obviously, you love Michel Pereira.
We haven't even talked about Khamzat Chimaev, who's at 13. It feels so weird for him to be at 13 because he's arguably a top 3 talent inside of this division. Top 5 for sure.
Yeah, this is definitely tough to rank. I'm trying to think of people outside of the rankings. Do they have many prospects coming up right now?
There's one.
Who? Oh, not Shara Magomedov. Do not say Shara Magomedov.
There's
done.
Shara Bullet. There's Bo Nickel. 2 gingers. I do really like Bo Nickel.
Why'd you whisper ginger? 2 gingers.
Because I hate gingers. I hate gingers. They are the worst thing in the world. I have a 25% chance in the future. Every kid I have has a 25% chance of being a ginger, and it eats me up every single day. I cannot stand gingers.
There's some deep-rooted trauma that we're discovering right now. Okay, so I would honestly maybe go... I was thinking originally C tier, but it has to be higher than that.
I don't love crowding up B.
Yeah, we always crowd B tier. It's not A tier.
No.
It's not A tier, so... It's either C tier or B tier.
I think we'll put him below Merab for now.
Below Merab. Okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. It might be because there is more.
Maybe Belal has to go up.
Belal has to go up. Yeah. Welterweight.
Yeah.
A tier right now.
That feels better to me because I think there's a big difference between welterweight and middleweight.
Low A tier.
Yeah.
Low A tier.
Like he's behind Islam.
Yeah. And then Merab behind Dricus.
Yeah, just because Merab ruins that division being like, no, Belal, we can't have a division with Belal in A tier.
No, yes we can. Because if I would have put a picture of Shavkat, you would have been more happy.
Oh, it would have been S.
Well,
S for Shavkat. Moving on to our light heavyweight division, arguably with the face of the UFC right now as their champion, Alex Poatan Pereira.
Yeah, this is a tough division to rank because Alex Pereira, literally one of the most exciting fighters right now, without a question. But then you go down the rankings and you're like, he's beaten Yuri Prohaska, he's beaten Jamal Hill, he's beaten Roundtree, he's beaten Yuri again, he's beaten Jan Blachowicz. Alexander Rakic doesn't stand a chance. Magomed Ankalaev is the only person who has an interesting storyline, but then if he wins the belt, then we're literally cooked.
Exactly. I think that this is very similar to a flyweight, where we have a very dominant champion who seems to have beaten every single person, really, and we're kind of at a standstill.
Yeah.
Where everyone's just going to kind of fight each other, and no one really has a shot against our champion outside of Ankalaev.
And then if we go down the rankings, who do we have in terms of that 10 to 15 range that's really exciting?
It's really strictly Carlos Alberg, who me and you are both high on. The guys at the bottom are just honestly clowns. You have like a Johnny Walker, Anthony Smith, Dominic Reyes. Those guys are just
cooked. Well, Dom Reyes' title run starts now. That's all I'm gonna say.
But like those guys are not have any chance near Alex Pereira.
No.
You do have a Khalil Roundtree down at 8, who is truly showed himself to be a future contender for that belt once Pereira is gone.
I think, isn't Bogdan Guskov ranked as well now? He's a decent fighter.
Yeah, he's down there at 14.
Yeah, he's exciting.
down there at 15, but
it's not the same caliber of skill as those lower divisions.
If Alex Pereira moved up to heavyweight or moved down to middleweight, this division would by far be the worst in the UFC. It is strictly carried by Poatan Pereira, and that's why I think you can't put Pereira down in D, so I think he has to go C.
Yeah, I think I would go C tier just because you've had 3 title fights in this division in the last year. We have to take into account right now.
Yeah, and these guys actually knock each other out.
Yeah.
You know, like not like heavyweight that we're going to talk about later next, where they don't knock each other out.
So you're thinking C tier?
Yeah.
How close do you think it would be to B tier?
I don't think they have a chance at B tier.
No.
The depth in both middleweight and bantamweight, there's a big difference between middleweight, bantamweight to light heavyweight.
So looking at our rankings right now, we have S tier Topuria, A tier Islam, Belal. That feels weird to have Belal so high.
I know.
Because in our rankings, he's always low.
Yeah, but welterweight, we have some of the most exciting fighters, and the future is very good.
Yeah, and then flyweight, we don't have anyone in F tier yet. I think flyweight, I was assuming we were going to put in F tier, but it's not that bad.
It seems too harsh to put it in F.
And there's such exciting prospects coming up in that division.
Exactly.
Like off the contender series, there's so many guys. Cody Haddon, I think he's actually bantamweight, but whatever. And then there's that guy who just got on week 10 who looked absolutely unbelievable, and he trains with Roy Val. So there's some exciting talent coming up in that division.
Yeah. Oh, that was the gayest.
Yeah. I agree with that. Dylan actually works at Disneyland. He's the Mickey Mouse part-time. Hey, children. Hey, kids.
All right, moving on to our last division. The division with 2 champions somehow. You know, like you think after 2 years there would only be one, but
I'm so over this division, bro. This might be our first F tier.
we have heavyweight. We have a division where we have a champion who's beaten one guy inside of the rankings. Dude refuses to fight, is ducking the interim champion. We had an interim champion defend his interim belt.
It's crazy.
Unheard of.
Yeah.
Unheard of.
Yeah. So this division right now in 2024, where you have the champion taking on Stipe Miocic, who doesn't have a win over any current heavyweights on the roster. That's an insane stat. He doesn't have a win in like 4 years. This division, for me, right off the bat, is F tier.
Are you gonna do that to Tom?
I have to.
There is some good fighters inside of this top of heavyweight.
Barely. Barely. It's Tom, which should be champion.
I like Tom. I like Volkov. Sergey Spivak, a great fighter.
Look, I'm going to move it to F tier right now.
You know what? We can go F.
But all these fighters are just cooked right now. Like, there's no one up and coming. There's Mick Parkins. Yeah, Mick Parkins, who's coming up. He trains with Tom Aspinall, who looked phenomenal in his last fight. That's like the only heavyweight that I can think of who's really exciting. I guess you have that Contender Series heavyweight that just got a contract who's like 6'7" or 6'8". He'll be exciting. But honestly, like, I don't see many of these guys having the skill set to get to the top.
And it's tough because 2 years ago you were like, oh yeah, we have this guy named Tai Tuivasa. He's on the way up, future champion, 5-fight losing streak. We have the Toffa brothers. Oh, they're on their way up. They're going to do great things. Cooked also.
And then you have Robelas de Spania from Cuba, who was like the next KO power, just crazy guy, gets laid and preyed on for 3 rounds and his career's cooked.
Do you think the UFC should look into bringing back Francis Ngannou? Because Tom has a really good chance of clearing out this whole division. You know, he's already beaten a lot of the top guys. He's beaten Volkov. He's beaten Pavlovich. He's beaten Blades. He really only has to fight Cyril Gane left. And if Gane loses to Volkov, then that fight won't happen anytime soon. So should they look to bring in Francis Ngannou for a mega fight with Tom? Or is that mega fight bringing up Pereira?
No, I think, oh yeah, actually that's a good point. I was going to say, I think bringing back Francis is a great idea. He adds a lot of hype to that division, a lot of KO power, a lot of new matchups for him in that top 5. Think about Francis versus Pavlovich. That would be so exciting. That's a matchup that they could make to get him a title shot. Because do they give him a title shot coming back without any wins in the last couple years?
I think it depends on how he's doing in PFL. Like if he's kicking butt in PFL, knocking everyone out, then I think you can go and give him the title shot right away because he is a former champion, has a name value. It's no different than giving Stipe the title shot against John Jones.
Yeah, but I do think I would like to see Alex Pereira move up before I would want to see Ngannou come back, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I get what you mean. That's going to wrap it up for today's tier list. Let us know what you think of our tier rankings. How would you have ranked these divisions? And we'll see you guys next time. Peace.
See ya.